Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to show you how to look after your Parlour Palm. If it's starting to look a bit ropey like this one, how to remove any of the dead foliage and what else you need to do to get it looking good again. So this is an example of a Parlour Palm which I haven't done any treatment to for a while. It's just been watered, kept in a shady location, and as you can see there's already some dead bits starting to appear. Now it can be a lot worse than this. I haven't touched this for about 6 months, but if you haven't touched it for maybe a few years, you could have lots of brown dead bits and it really won't look too good. So there's a few things you need to do. One of the things you'll notice is a lot of the older leaves will be completely covered in dust, like you can see this one here. Get you a close up. You can really see a lot of the dust in there, and even on here, quite dusty leaves, and it's kind of lost its shine. It's no longer a nice shiny healthy looking leaf. It looks quite dusty and unhealthy. So what you need to do with that is take it into the shower basically, which I'll show you in the second half, and just rinse it. But for this section of the video, I'm going to show you what to do about the dead material and how crowded it is. So as the Parlour Palm grows, it will have old leaves that start to die off, but they don't fall off naturally, so what you need to do is cut them off. So if you've got a plant like this which is very crowded, which is how you'll find most of them, because in the shops what they do is, this isn't one plant, they actually plant about 30 plants in the one pot to give an effect of a bigger plant faster. And the issue with that is it gets very congested, as you can see here. And what that does is a lot of the leaves don't get enough light and they just kind of die off and it looks quite unhealthy. So what you want to do is any of the old leaves, just snip them off. Anything with any dead or brown material, just cut back as far as you can to the stem of the plant. So for example, on this lower leaf here, you just take it back as far as it goes, which is just to this point here where it meets the stem, and you can just cut that with just second shears. So I'm just going to go around now and take off anything that has brown bits on it. So there we are, it's already looking much nicer, much better shaped, the plant, and it's not as congested. So the next stage I'm going to do is just take out any of the older leaves, which are basically, they're going to die off soon anyway, and they're not really helping the plant because they're getting shaded out, and there's these nice fresh new leaves which are going to replace them. So the way to tell which leaves should be taken out is generally they will be smaller than the other ones because they are smaller, because they are older and when the plant was younger. So you can see here, this is an example of an older leaf. It's even a bit of brown on this. You can see some spots on the leaf, and also the foliage isn't a very dark green, it's quite a light pale green. That's a sign that the plant is starting to take the nutrients out of that and it's kind of given up with that leaf. You'll probably have it a lot dustier than the other leaves as well, and just generally looking a bit untidy. The leaves will also normally be lower down if they're old. So that's an example of an old leaf. Example of a new leaf, as these the higher ones, you can see they're much nicer darker green colour. So I'm just going to go around now taking off any of these older leaves. There we are, that's a lot of the older ones taken off. You can now appreciate the leaves much better because you can see them individually instead of just a crowded mess. And also the leaves that are there are now getting a lot more light, and they can tolerate lower light conditions much better and will be healthier because of that. So there you are, you can see it's looking much better now. Now one or two new leaves though that are really starting to come out too far. If you don't like that and it's not a very neat habit, then you can cut them off as well. It's not necessary to take these off, but just because if you don't like the look of it, you can take off any long straggly bits. If you do have any sections of leaf which have a very long stem, that can indicate that there's not quite enough light. So if a lot of your plant is like that, then try taking it somewhere brighter. But also removing a lot of these lower leaves will allow more light into the centre of the plant, which should mean that the new leaves that come off after the cleaning shouldn't be as leggy as the first ones. So as you can see, it's already looking much cleaner and a lot nicer, the plant. As you can see from this great big pile of leaves here, there's a huge amount of leaves that I've taken off from the plant, but you can still see there's lots still on it, and you don't want to take you want to make sure there's still plenty of leaves on it so it doesn't look too crowded. Now if you're taking all the old leaves off and it still looks very crowded, you can go in and take some more off, but always make sure that each stem has at least 2 or 3 plant leaves on it. So you can see a stem here, and this one has, you can see 1, 2 mature leaves and a new one coming up, so you want to make sure they all have at least 2 or 3 mature leaves on them, because otherwise it can stress that individual plant out a bit too much and it might die off. But if it's a very crowded plant like this, losing 1 or 2 is not an issue because you've got plenty in there. And to be honest, if you want a larger plant, it's sometimes best for the smaller ones to die off to give space to the larger ones. So the next stage of this video, I will now show you about washing the leaves and how to get rid of any of the dust and why that's beneficial for the plant. So here we are with the plant in the bathroom. So the reason you want to wash the leaves is there's a lot of dust on the leaves, and there's also a lot of dirt. If you have cooking or anything in the house, any of the oil from your fryer will also land on the leaf. And the problem with dirt and oils on the leaves is it stops a lot of the light from getting to the plant, so it can't make enough energy for photosynthesis. But also it can block up the breathing holes in the plant, so it can't breathe very well. And what that does is it also means it can't photosynthesize as well, or grow as well. So the plant will just kind of slowly run out of energy and die back. You have more leaves looking unhealthy, but also it just doesn't look as nice. You don't have the nice glossy sheen to the leaf. So what you want to do is you want to just get a normal shower. You want to make sure the water isn't scorching hot, but warm water is good. If you use ice cold water on a tropical plant like a palm like this, you can damage the leaf because it can get cold shock. So what you want to do with the shower head, I'll show you this with it off first because it will be too noisy for me to speak over it. So you want to shower all over the top of the plant, but you also want to hold the plant on its side and try and get underneath the leaves because there'll also be some dirt under there. So I'll just go ahead with that now and show you how I do it. So that's the plant fully rinsed. So I'm just going to give it a little shake there to get any excess water off. And now you can put that back in its normal position and the leaves will be much healthier and much shinier. So this is the plant after it's been rinsed. As you can see, the leaves are looking much shinier and glossy, even without the water. Take the water off, you can see underneath. Leaves are much healthier, and look more green looking because they're not covered in dirt anymore. Generally quite a healthy looking plant, and even one you'd be quite happy to buy in a shop or anything, whereas the one before was the same plant, untidied up, didn't look so nice. So one more thing I was going to add, if you do have a lot of leaves and they're like this, the reason, and the tips are going quite brown, maybe also a bit like this little bit of leaf here, the reason for that is the air is too dry. So the air is too dry in your flat or your house. If you spray with water on the plant once a day, maybe twice a day, depends how dry the air is, that will stop this from occurring. And if all your leaves are like this, then obviously you can't take all the leaves off as you'll have no plant left. And if you want to tidy up the appearance, just go around individually and just snip off the leaf at these points here, so that you still have leaves, but you don't have any of the unsightly brown parts. So you just want to cut it just slightly past there. So that's all you need to do for that. So if you want to make sure that your plant still does well, you can give it a balanced liquid fertilizer, which will encourage its more growth and keep the leaves nice and green. Repotting it will also help the plant. It will make it grow faster and larger and look much healthier. And what I'll do is leave you now with 2 photos, one before the treatment that I've just shown you and one afterwards, just so you can compare how much nicer the plant looks with just a little bit of care, which only took me probably 10 minutes.